What's going on? Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Football Fellows podcast. Saturday, September 10th. Lucas and Tyler hanging out with you today. Tyler, how you doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing good. It's been a while since we've done a Saturday morning episode. Like, I want to say the last time we did one was way back in like April.
Way back, yeah, I think it would have been in April. No, you and I did a mock draft episode on a Saturday.
Oh yeah, and we did a couple underdog drafts.
Yeah.
But to have an actual podcast on a Saturday, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. We have our start sit Saturday episode. Make sure to drop us a follow on the socials before we even jump into today's starts and sits. Fantasy Football Fellows, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. FF Fellows on Twitter. The FF Fellows on Instagram. I'm at Lucas Wenzel on Twitter. Tyler is Tyler_Plath there. No Cameron with us today, but we will hold down the fort in the meantime. Before we jump into starts of the week, though, so you can figure out who's going to win you your matchup in week one, I want to recap Thursday Night Football a little bit. Because we have to recap the first game of NFL action. I feel like it'd be an injustice if we didn't do that. Bills, Rams, Thursday Night Football. Bills roll 31-10. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time trying to dissect what everything in the game possibly means. The Bills were really freaking good. Okay, let's just start with that. And the Rams just were not very good. I think that's really what we need to say about Thursday Night Football. But what is one thing you're taking away for fantasy football from that Thursday night game? Ooh, there's a lot. There's a lot. I think the one thing is kind of this overreaction to the Allen Robinson performance.
Yep.
A lot of people are kind of laughing at other people that were in on Allen Robinson, saying like, you know, way to go, bozo. Like, you did a real good one there. I don't understand the criticism. Yes, it wasn't the greatest stat line in game from Allen Robinson, but the game plan that Buffalo had really kind of shut down any kind of offensive production for the Rams, where the run game really wasn't utilized like at all by LA. And we saw this last year with Stafford, that when, you know, he's struggling a little bit, he's only going to target Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
Like, that's just how the game went. And I know Alex Caruso, friend of the podcast, was tweeting out stuff. You know, he had the stat that he played almost every snap.
All but two.
So I mean, all that to say, the Rams play Atlanta next week. Okay? The Rams will be just fine. Allen Robinson will be just fine. Don't panic. Don't panic sell at all. Just take it one game at a time. It was going to be a tough game anyway. Buffalo is, if not the best team, they are one of the smartest teams in the NFL. And the other kind of trendy stat going around the game was, or after the game was, Stafford stinks when he's not blitzed. When it's just a four-man rush, Stafford is relatively average. And they got after him. And so that changes everything. So, like I said, don't panic. Don't sell. Just take it one game at a time. They got Atlanta next week. Everything will be okay. Allen Robinson will be A-okay.
And the thing with A-Rob, too, it's not like it wasn't his Chicago days where he was just getting dogged or he was just dogging it out on the field, right? Like, you go watch some of the film on A-Rob from this past week. He was getting free release, man. Like, there were times where, like, Stafford would look his way and it's like, throw the football to A-Rob. He's open. And he'd just go right over to Cooper Kupp, right? So, yeah, I mean, A-Rob, I think he'll be fine for future weeks. I'm not panicking on him every single offensive snap but two. It's just a weird, quirky week, if you ask me. What I'm not sure is quirky, though, is my takeaway. Cam Akers, 3 rushing attempts, 0 yards.
Shoo.
3 rushing attempts. I knew I wanted to stay away from Cam Akers this year, and like I'm not trying to take a victory lap on this by any means, but like, yikes! 3 rushing attempts, 0 yards. Like I didn't expect Cam Akers to come out and like dominate touches and have 17 rushing attempts or anything, but I didn't expect him to come out and have 3 and put up a goose egg for your fantasy team this week. I mean, had we made this podcast and had we done sits prior to Thursday Night Football, I might have made Cam Akers my sit of the week because I just wanted nothing to do with Cam Akers this week. But at the same time, like I don't want to hit the panic button just yet because, like you said, they have Atlanta last week. Okay, Atlanta is they were horrendous against the run last year, so there's still hope there for Akers. But also, like, is Darrell Henderson the best? Is he like our first sell high candidate of the offseason or of the regular season now? I can't say offseason anymore. Is he like our first sell high candidate? Like kind of a rhetorical question, kind of a joke, but also like kind of serious of like I don't think it's time to panic sell Cam Akers, but also like Darrell Henderson might be the running back 1 for the foreseeable future.
I definitely think Darrell Henderson is the better fit for that offense because they excuse me, they want to base everything off of the run, but then they want to be able to throw off of the run, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Darrell Henderson is, I'm not going to say he's a 3-down back, but he can run, and he's a better pass catcher compared to Cam Akers. So I give it one more week because, the Atlanta game is going to be a good game for him, right? And I'm trying to find the, there it is right there. When Sean McVay literally comes out and says, I need to see more urgency from Cam Akers.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Yikes. I didn't even see that quote. Oh, brother.
Yeah. So give it one more week. And I think, if Henderson has a better game than he did against Buffalo, which is more than likely, you can probably sell him then, or maybe wait one more week because by then it may actually just be Darrell Henderson's backfield.
Right.
But I'm starting to kind of hop on board that like sell high train because if I'm completely honest, I don't really want to mess with the headache of having Darrell Henderson, but then always going like, well, Cam Akers is right there, and what Akers can do. So, I don't know. Take it 1 week at a time. Again, just like with Allen Robinson, take it 1 week at a time.
Yeah, I would say hold on Henderson for now, but also like that's about all I'm giving it. Like if he's the guy again next week, I mean we can revisit then. But yeah, that backfield, I just didn't want to touch with the 10-foot pole. I figured Henderson would be the better value, but I digress. That's the takeaway I have from Thursday Night Football. Cam Akers 3 attempts. 0 yards. If I'm a Cam Akers manager, I am shaking in my boots, honestly. Like, you can still win your matchup this week, but like, sorry, like all of a sudden you might have to go try and make a trade for a better running back too than Cam Akers. Like, that's just kind of the reality. Or if you 0 RB'd and you ended up with Cam Akers as your running back 1, sorry, you struck out.
Yeah. Big time.
Let's turn the corner here and get into some starts of the week. We're going to go through running back, wide receiver, quarterback, tight end starts of the week for both Tyler and I. And because I'm such a gracious host, Tyler, I'm going to let you kick us off for starts of the week. Who is your start of the week at running back?
My start of the week at running back is a flag plant of mine. It's A.J. Dillon. And you don't need to hear the whole spiel about why we like A.J. Dillon this year. Here's the reason why you need to start him this week, though. This Minnesota Vikings defense is raw, I'll say is the right word. They've not played together all preseason. New system, new coach. Green Bay's going to take advantage of that. And A.J. Dillon was the bruiser last year, out-carried Aaron Jones last year. So, yes, even if carries are split between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon is still a start because I give it like 80% to 90% likeliness that A.J. Dillon gets the goal line carries. And I'm not going to be surprised if A.J. Dillon walks away with 2 touchdowns and like 60 yards. Okay, and that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but we've had people like Cam Akers and James Cook play this week. And when you compare those finishes to A.J. Dillon's potential finish, A.J. Dillon looks very, very nice. So A.J. Dillon definitely should be your start at running back this week. Expect some goal line carries and some scores from the man this week.
Well, I mean, and even like you said, if you're expecting even just 60 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's 3. So 60 yards is 6 points. 2 touchdowns are 6 points apiece. That's 18 fantasy points. Okay. Like that's good enough to give you probably a top 15 finish on the week. So, I mean, I love A.J. Dillon this week. I agree. He's in all my lineups this week. The Vikings, like this is just going to be classic Vikings of Aaron Rodgers. They won't be afraid to just ground and pound the ball against the Vikings. Like they won't force Aaron Rodgers to beat Minnesota, but at the same time, look, this Vikings run D has not been good for the past couple of years. Now they've shored up the inside with some defensive tackle talent, but like you said, not everybody's been on the field at the same time. They haven't played all preseason together. Week 1 of that, take advantage of that. Get the ball going up the middle, which A.J. Dillon was phenomenal up the middle last year. 7th most fantasy points on inside runs last year. So, yeah, fire up A.J. Dillon this week. My start, I can't believe how quickly I've just turned tides on this player. My start of the week is Antonio Gibson. Jacksonville, I get it. You hear that and you're like, no way. We're not doing this. We're not going back on Antonio Gibson. He's toast. He's not good. Here's the thing. So Jacksonville was pretty stout against the run last year, right? Like I believe they only allowed 20 fantasy points a game to running backs, which is pretty good. Here's the thing though. Teams ran the ball the 8th most times versus Jacksonville last year. They allowed the 5th most rushing touchdowns to running backs. And you want to know who's going to score all the goal line work for Washington this week? They're going to be able to move the ball down the field on this Jacksonville secondary. They get in close. You know who's scoring a touchdown this week? Antonio Gibson is, because no Brian Robinson. Ron Rivera has said, oh yeah, we're going to feed Gibson now, right? Like it's not just like Gibson wasn't just punished because we wanted to punish him, right? Like Brian Robinson, I think that's more of a testament to Brian Robinson than it was to Antonio Gibson. I don't think all of a sudden Jarrett Patterson comes in and gets 10 rushing attempts this week. Sure, might he get 4 or 5? Yeah, probably. Will Gibson probably get 18, 20? That's still enough for me. If Gibson puts up, again, this is a classic, Gibson can put up 70 yards, a touchdown, and have 3 receptions for 20 yards. All of a sudden, you're looking at a 17, 18 point week from Gibson, right? That's what I'm thinking happens for Gibson this week. You mix in a few pass catching attempts, you mix in a touchdown, you give him the volume and he scores a rushing touchdown. I think they'll be able to take advantage of Jacksonville. I think Washington rolls in this game. I think it'll be a good game, closer than people will probably anticipate. But no, give me Antonio Gibson, man. I think they'll just feed him. As long as he doesn't fumble, which is always a concern, they're just going to feed him because they don't Antonio Gibson is better than Jarrett Patterson. They don't want to use McKissick as a run heavy running back. So yeah, give me Antonio Gibson as my start of the weekend running back. You went with A.J. Dillon, your start of the weekend running back. Let's move over to wide receiver now. There's actually a lot of really good wide receiver matchups this week. You're actually looking at the same matchup though as your start of the weekend running back.
Yeah, and I'm kind of regretting this now because if I'm so in on A.J. Dillon being a nice rusher, that goes kind of against the game plan or game script a little bit for Adam Thielen being a wide receiver of the week. But here's the thing. Adam Thielen doesn't need a whole lot of volume to be a really good play this week because he's just a red zone machine, okay? Past 7 matchups against the Packers, he's averaged 18.5 fantasy points a game, okay? Am I expecting 18? Sure.
I'm not expecting 18. I'm expecting more than his line over on PrizePicks at 13 fantasy points. You can use the code fellas there, but I digress.
If you're starting Thielen, you're starting him as your flex.
Mm-hmm.
to get 13 to 15, maybe even 16 out of your flex, solid. Expect a touchdown. Jair Alexander is probably going to stay on one side of the field, so he may draw Jair a little bit, but I'm not going to be surprised if we find a little Adam Thielen red zone party, because that's just the receiver that he's kind of turned into, is just the absolute route runner in the red zone that just gets open every single time. Yeah, look for Thielen this week. I don't just expect a lot of offense in the red zone. I should say, when I say offense, I'm expecting a lot of like trickery, and I use that lightly. I'm expecting a lot new looks that Green Bay probably is not familiar with.
Right.
And knowing just that O'Connell's the coach now, it's not a Mike Zimmer led team. So Green Bay, they'll try to, they may be a little bit, I don't want to say relaxed, but they're not really going to know what to expect. So they're going to be kind of on the heels of their feet a little bit, just because they don't know what to expect. And I think Thielen takes advantage of that. Start Adam Thielen this week.
Yeah, I'm expecting this to be a high-scoring affair, or this could be like last year. If you remember, the Packers came out week 1 and just threw up an absolute doozy of a game. I just got absolutely rolled, right? Like, I could also see that going this route of like all of a sudden the Vikings get up, 21 zip, and all of a sudden, it's all garbage time from there on out. Now, that might lead to more of a shootout. Aaron Rodgers throwing the football more. But again, I love Adam Thielen. You read the numbers. Scored 22 and 2 out of his past 3 games, 18.5 average over the last 7. I love that. I love hearing that. It's music to my ears for Thielen. So fire him up this week. Throw him in your flex. My wide receiver start of the week. I can't believe the last 3 weeks, not even the 2 weeks, probably almost the 180 I've done on this player. I'm so in on Marquis Brown now. He's my start of the week at wide receiver against Kansas City. I used to think you know what? I don't really see it for Hollywood. He's going to be great the first couple of weeks, but then you bring back another elite wide receiver, and what is that going to do for him? Right. Obviously Hollywood isn't going to be a, top 12, top 15 wide receiver the entire season. But when you get a matchup like Kansas City in week 1, last year against Kansas City in week 2 with Lamar Jackson in mind, nothing against Lamar Jackson, guy's deserving of a contract, didn't get one this weekend, but I digress. With Lamar Jackson, played Kansas City in week 2 last year, 6 receptions, 10 targets, 113 yards and a touchdown, good for 23.3 fantasy points. Hey, that was good for wide receiver 7 on the week last year with Lamar Jackson. Nothing against Lamar, but fair to say Kyler Murray is the better pure passer than Lamar. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I had someone on TikTok said I put Kyler Murray as a start on TikTok. And someone in the comments was like, you say now he has Kyler as if he didn't have Lamar Jackson last year. I'm like, did it become a hot take that Kyler Murray is just a better passer than Lamar Jackson? I'm not necessarily calling Lamar bad. Kyler Murray is the better passing quarterback than Lamar is. That's all I'm saying. At any rate, gets better passing quarterback now in Lamar. Kansas City allowed nearly 33 fantasy points per game to wide receivers last year. That was the 11th most in the league. And their DBs still aren't great, right? They didn't go out this offseason and prioritize DBs. That wasn't, they lost Tyrann Mathieu. And granted, I can't remember, who did they bring in that's back there now?
Justin Reed.
Thank you, Justin Reed. Yes. Nothing against Justin Reed. Still good, but I'm still expecting them to get burned over the top. This is a game the Cardinals are going to be losing. Hollywood's really the only pass catching threat on this Cardinals team. No disrespect to Zach Ertz, but the only wide receiver threat this team has is Hollywood. So give me Hollywood. Give me a big day for Hollywood. I think he totally smashes his projections. He's at 14 points for his projection. I'm expecting north of 17, 18 for Hollywood this week. I think he has a big week coming. So fire up Hollywood. Get him in your lineup this week if you don't already. We've gone through the two big positions now. You're pivoting away from this Packers-Vikings game now, aren't you? Because AJ Dillon started the week. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins is the start of the week at quarterback for Tyler. No. Who's your quarterback start of the week?
My quarterback start of the week is Jordan Love, actually.
He's still going with the game.
No, it's Trevor Lawrence. And I think the big question surrounding Jacksonville going into this season is like they have an actual coach now who's won a Super Bowl, who's been there, done that. How much better can they be from last year, right? Because the roster didn't really turn over a whole lot. They added a whole lot. They didn't really lose a whole lot. So just how much better can they be? I'm expecting this Jaguars offense to be, in terms of offensive efficiency, top half of the league kind of bounce back season for Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence is going to be the front man of that. I'll call it a movement. He's going up against Washington this week, and I think the only thing that you can correlate Washington with is just chaos. And just usually in fantasy football, when there's chaos, it leads to really bad production.
Right.
So that bodes well for really any Jacksonville player, but mainly Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, and you could probably throw in like James Robinson or Marvin Jones. Washington gave up the 7th most points, fantasy points last year to quarterbacks. And they gave up the 5th most touchdowns to wide receivers last year. This defense just leaks all over the field when it comes to the passing game. Expect Trevor Lawrence to kind of, I'm not going to say bounce back. I know the stats last year weren't great, but knowing what he had going on in that team, it's kind of a miracle it wasn't worse. Okay. Put some respect on Trevor Lawrence's name. He's got a very favorable matchup, new weapons. I'll say an upgraded offensive line. Trevor Lawrence should be a start for your quarterback if you're in a predicament where you're choosing between two. Don't hear what I'm not saying. If you've got you took a top 12 quarterback in your draft, start
top 13. I think by the time you get Lance in there and Stafford in there, who already played. Right.
Yeah. Start those guys. But if you're kind of debating between like Trevor Lawrence and Kirk Cousins, I lean Trevor Lawrence this week.
No, you don't. Really?
I do.
I lean Kirk. Like I think Lawrence is a great play this week. I do agree. I like if you're in a super flex and Lawrence is your quarterback too, like you should absolutely smash your matchup. Or if you're in like a deep league and like you just punted on quarterback and the other teams, your teammates were taking, Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins and whatnot as their backups before you even took a quarterback, right? Like then I'm fine with Lawrence.
Maybe the better explanation is there's an argument to be had that Trevor Lawrence could be a better start than Kirk Cousins this week. But if you're debating between a guy like Derek Carr and Trevor Lawrence, go Trevor Lawrence.
Interesting. So you go Trevor Lawrence there still. I think I'd still lean Derek Carr with no Derwin James. But
is he out?
He is out.
I'm telling you, that man is overrated.
Or was it J.C. Jackson? No, it was Derwin
J.C. Jackson's out.
Yeah, okay. So I think it's J.C. Jackson.
But still, I'd still go Trevor Lawrence. I'm expecting this Jaguars team to really come out and just kind of put on a show just because they need to convince people that like we're not some sort of like we're not the joke that was last year.
Yeah, right. No, I just wanted to flush through that. I just wanted to make sure. I just didn't want you to say something that's like, wait, actually I said that. It's like, no, you did, but there's at least a thought process to it. So no, I don't mind that. My start of the week at quarterback is pretty, I don't want to say obvious. If you have him, you're starting him. But like, if he comes out and he finishes as the overall quarterback one this week, like, don't be surprised. It's Russell Wilson. Okay, get Russell Wilson in your lineup. get him everywhere. Like, I am like full chips in, all in on the Russ revenge game here, right? Like, this is, Russ is going to come out and just say, you know what, screw it. You wouldn't let me cook for all these years. You want to know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to cook. All right, I'm going to cook. Seattle allowed the second most yards, attempts, and completions to quarterbacks last year. So I'm expecting big days all over the field. Cortland Sutton, big day. Jerry Jeudy. I sneaky like Jerry Jeudy this week, like a lot. Like, I'm going to go tweak my rankings after this, and Jerry Jeudy is probably going to fly up my board a little bit. Seattle allowed the sixth most fantasy points to wide receivers from the slot last season. Vice versa, wide receivers on the perimeter, they were bottom half of the league. So I'm saying, like, I love Sutton this week. I think he'll be Wilson's favorite target. But Jeudy too. I think you really got to take Jeudy into consideration. I really like him this week as well. That's it for this game, though. Okay, Seattle. Like, I don't think Seattle does much to stay in this football game. I think I don't even want to focus on the Seattle Seahawks, but Russ revenge game. Seattle, like, just got thrown the football all over the field on them last year. So big day for Russ incoming. I would fire him up. Don't even debate starting him. Like, keep him in there. I think he has quarterback 1 overall potential this week. Let's wrap it up with tight ends here. We've gone through running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks. Ty, just to review your AJ Dillon, Adam Thielen, Trevor Lawrence. Who is your start of the week to wrap it out at tight end?
Austin Hooper.
Okay.
Now, we are not that far removed from Austin Hooper being a top 10 at least option in fantasy football.
2 years, but.
And he even had flashes when he was in Cleveland, right? And he just was not. It just really wasn't the right kind of fit for Hooper, because you got a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, you got weapons like Jarvis Landry and Odell. Really wasn't the ideal situation for Austin Hooper. But I think the main argument for, I maybe before I even get to that, you look at the situation now in Tennessee in a run-first offense and just question marks really around every other weapon, right? Robert Woods may be a great play throughout the season, but this is really the time to take a shot on a guy like Austin Hooper, right? Just because there are, like I said, there are that many question marks about the other weapons. Robert Woods first came back off a torn ACL at age 30. How good does he look, right? There's uncertainty around Treylon Burks for week 1, right? Not just does he play, how much does he play? Does he play well? There are question marks for the guys on the outside that really, like I said, allows you to take a shot on Austin Hooper this week. This is your time to take a shot on a guy like this. Not when it's week 12 and you need a win to get into your playoffs right now. Don't get me wrong. Tennessee will run the ball and a lot. And this is how they will win the game, is through Derrick Henry. But they need something else. They will need someone else to step up. Take your shot on Austin Hooper. And he's not he's not the sexiest guy to start this week. But at when you get into the Austin Hooper range of tight ends, it's just dart throws at a dartboard. You're just taking a shot. Take a shot week 1. Don't wait to take your shot week 10, week 11, week 12.
Yeah. The big thing to watch for this week is, like, who is the one tight end that has a big game this week? Because every year there's one, right? It's Dalton Schultz. It was Darren Waller. It was Mark Andrews. Who are some other? Austin Hooper, still qualified on that list from a few years ago. Who is the one tight end that has a big week? So, I think Austin Hooper is worth a stream potentially this week if you're looking at options. My guy is probably worth a stream this week as well. Pat Freiermuth. Okay, like here's a guy you probably honestly draft him to be your starting tight end, and if you're in like a 12-man league, I think Muth is going off the board right around that range. Plays the Bengals week 1. He scored twice in his 2 meetings with the Bengals last year in his rookie season. Cincinnati allowed the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends last year as well. Like I think it'll probably be Deontay and Muth. I think those are the 2 guys I have in my lineup this week. Like I'm not forcing Muth in there. Like if you have, one of your top 5 guys, start one of the top 5 guys. Don't think twice about it. But if you want a tight end who's going to be streaming worthy, who could find himself inside the top 10 tight ends this week, I think Muth has an excellent shot of that. This Bengals defense didn't do a ton over the middle of the field to beef that up this year. Didn't really do a ton on the outside either, right? It was priority was O-line for the Bengals this offseason, which that looks great now. But regardless, I think Pat Freiermuth is totally worth a starting spot in your lineup this week should you be struggling to find someone to start at the tight end position. That wraps out our starts and sits. We can run through them one more time. Starts of the week at running back, Antonio Gibson and A.J. Dillon. At wide receiver, Marquis Brown and Adam Thielen. At quarterback, Russell Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. And at tight end, Pat Freiermuth and Austin Hooper. I legit almost said Tyler Higbee, and I had to stop myself. I'm like, no, it was Austin Hooper. Tyler Higbee already played. Pat Freiermuth and Austin Hooper. Ty, let's wrap out this podcast doing one of the things we love most and browsing through some player props that you can take advantage of this Sunday over on PrizePicks. PrizePicks, one of our favorite daily fantasy platforms to play on. You can sign up over there using the promo code FELLAS. I mean, I think the big thing that I have to push right now, Tom Brady's prop is at half a passing yard. He's going to throw more than 1 yard this week, people. Go get your free money there. You can parlay that Tom Brady prop with any of these props that we're about to give you, some props that we've been looking at that we're interested in. What did we go on Thursday night? 5 of 6. I think the only one we missed was A-Rob's over, and we nailed every single other. We had Josh Allen over combined yards. We had Cooper Kupp. Did we go completions or anytime score on Cooper Kupp?
Anytime score.
Anytime score for Cooper Kupp. We had Cam Akers and Devin Singletary under their fantasy points. Akers was at 11. Singletary was at 12. We went under on both of those and hit on both of those. We had anytime sack for Von Miller. Yes. Nailed that.
And then we had some miscellaneous ones. Like Cam had an Aaron Donald sack at any time.
Yep.
I had Josh Allen at a combined to score more than 2.5 times combined rushing or passing.
Yep.
Like it was a nice little start for the fellas over.
It was a nice little start. The fact that we only missed on A-Rob, I was pleased with. So, here are some of our other favorite props for this week. Again, that Tom Brady prop at half a passing yard. You can go sign up for PrizePicks using the promo code FELLAS. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So make sure you go get in on the action. Seriously, Tom Brady's going to throw for a yard. So take that prop and parlay it with any of the ones that we're about to give you here. Any that stand out to you right now as you're browsing through time?
Well, let me pull up the app because I was just looking at some relatively important news that we can get to after our PrizePicks segment.
Yep.
I'm kind of going through the QB passing yards at the moment. There's not really one maybe Herbert at 280. That's passing.
No, I
yards.
like that. Yeah. Herbert at 280. I would take the over on that. Yeah.
I mean, if Brady is at 280 against Dallas, Mahomes is 295 against Arizona, Dak is 270 against Tampa, 280 for Herbert against Vegas feels pretty solid.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. That feels like an easy over for me. One I want to point out for sure, this is one I almost put in our video, but people were starting this player to begin with. Deebo Samuel's fantasy score prop is at 14 fantasy points.
Hey, wow.
Go smash the over on that. Do yourself a favor there. Go smash the over. Unless that's changed, which I'm scrolling to find right now. I was looking at that the other day, and I'm like, that's free money. Yeah, his prop is still at 14 fantasy points for his fantasy score. So, yeah, I would take the over on that. over on PrizePicks.
Especially with Kittle being a doubt for Sunday. Yeah.
Yes. Go smash that over. Brandon Ayuk at 10.5 fantasy points. That's another one that I was looking at. If Kittle doesn't play, I am taking the over on that as well. I'm trying to find some combined scores here that I like. Some combined rushing receiving props.
Mm-hmm.
Not a ton stick out to me. I mean, McCaffrey had 117.5. It feels a little rich for my blood. I just don't want to automatically assume he's, I just don't want to take him for granted, really. AJ Dillon, 66.5 rush receiving yards. You taking over or under on that? He's your start of the week. You mentioned 60 yards as kind of a rushing yards as a threshold.
Yeah, I'll go over on that. I will also, I think he also gets 2-3, receiving opportunities. And, I mean, he was top 20 in receiving running back stats last year in terms of catches, yards, all that stuff. Yeah. I would take the over on that.
Here we go. Some receiving yard props that I really like this week. Let me go find Jamar Chase's line. 72.5. I'm taking the over on that. If you prefer T. Higgins at 68.5, I like that one as well.
I like
How about
Nick Chubb to score any time on the ground. He's 0.5 rushing touchdowns against Carolina.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that.
Nick Chubb anytime touchdown score. Take the over on that. How about this? Deontay Johnson at 52.5 receiving yards.
That one I sneaky like as well. I think everyone is.
I do as well.
I think everyone is. I should just say it like this: Deontay Johnson's flying under the radar right now, and he was a top 10 wide receiver last year in fantasy. He led the league in targets, besides Cooper Kupp, but we can kind of call that stat an outlier. So, Deontay Johnson is most definitely someone that you should be looking at when you're looking for a parlay.
Yeah, I think the AC joint sprain, it might scare some people. If he plays, he's going over that. They're going to have to throw against the Bengals to beat them. So, yeah, I really like that prop. That'd be probably one of the ones I parlay with that Brady prop that I mentioned. Darren Waller, 48.5 receiving yards.
That one, I'm going to say no.
That feels like a trap.
It's a trap because of the Derwin James effect.
Sorry, I'm scrolling through here still.
Ooh, you'll like this one. Kareem Hunt at 52.5 combined yards.
I know. I saw that one. I think that's a trap for me too. I'm staying away from it. I'm just staying away from it. I don't think it's like a bad line. I don't think it's like I think it's one you could totally take advantage of, but I'm also not sitting there like, hold on, let me go smash this Kareem Hunt prop quick. Like,
sure.
That's one I'm a little bit more nervous for. Mostly because I'm staring at Adam Thielen at 49.5 receiving yards.
Oh.
You going over on that?
I am staying away from that one.
You're staying away from that one.
I'm staying away from
even
that
as
one.
Your start of the week.
Because I think Thielen really banks on the touchdown upside, not so much volume upside. But literally, Thielen could have like 2 for 50, and he hits. So
you go find me another prop. I'm gonna go find all of his yardages versus Green Bay, because I am almost positive he's hit that mark in every game versus the Green Bay Packers throughout his career. Not every single game, but go find me another prop while I do this.
Yeah, I'm looking.
All right, here we go. Adam Thielen. Oh, this is interesting. This is really interesting. All right, here we go. I'm smashing the over on this prop. Are you kidding me? Since 2016, Adam Thielen's receiving numbers versus the Packers. First matchup of the season in 2016, 41 yards. Okay, that's fine. On Christmas Eve, 202, 96, 24. Okay, 131, 125, 75, didn't play. No, that's false. He had 0 receptions. 110 yards, 27-82. I'm smashing the over on 49.5. That feels too easy to me. There we go. That's what I'm going to parlay that with afterwards. I'm going to parlay Brady and Thielen.
How do you feel about Mike Williams at 58.5?
I'm staying away from that one. I think he could totally smash it. I think he could. But again, Mike Will is a guy. I don't think I'll ever put Mike Will in prop bets. I'll put him in my fantasy lineup, but I won't put him in my prop bets.
Sure.
Mostly because he's the ultimate money breaker of like, he either makes me a ton of money or he loses me a ton of money. So I would just rather stay away from Mike Will on prop betting, though I do like his odds of going over that then more than going under that. All right, let's do one more piece and wrap this puppy out here. I'm still looking at receiving yards here. What's Hollywood's line? Hollywood's at 65.5. That's a little rich for props. Let's get a good one here. Here we go. Cortland Sutton, 55.5.
Yeah, you could talk me into that one.
I think one of him or Judy will hit over. They're both at 55.5. So pick your poison there. I think one of them will go over that.
I think maybe just for balance sake, let's do one under.
I like that idea.
And I have an idea for mine.
Okay.
I'm looking at Michael Pittman or Brandon Cooks on receptions.
Ooh. What are their...
Both are at 5.
Ooh. You would go under on those.
Brandon Cooks is drawing Stephon Gilmore. Michael Pittman is drawing Derek Stingley Jr.
Interesting. I would rather go Cooks under on that than I would Pittman. Pittman against a rookie cornerback. I actually really like Pittman this week. I actually really like Pittman. Oh, also, sorry, I'm scrolling through rushing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns. Give me Dalvin anytime score this week. 100%.
Yeah.
Give me Dalvin anytime score. Let's wrap it out there. You can go get in on the action over on PrizePicks. Promo code fellas when you do the match your first deposit up to $100. Again, we started off the season 5 for 6 on our picks over on our Chalkboard as well. You can go join our Chalkboard using the link in the description as well. We are posting weekly starts and sits. We're posting our weekly rankings. Everything is free over there for you. All you have to do is click on that link and join. It's essentially like our new Discord. We still have a Discord. We'll still be hosting people over there, but all of our weekly content is going to be in our Chalkboard. So make sure to go over there. You get weekly prop picks. You'll get weekly starts and sits. You get weekly rankings, all of it. Head over to our Chalkboard down in the description of the video version and podcast version or an audio version of this podcast. Excuse me. Anything you want to add before we sign off here?
Yeah, we should probably talk about this news that kind of came out of nowhere.
Oh, yes, you wanted to talk about that news. Let's do that quick before we wrap up.
Darren Waller and the Raiders have reached a 3-year extension with $51 million in new money.
Oh.
So his contract now is worth 5 years, $66 million. And he's 30 years old.
You could have totally stopped me and broken that news. I didn't really that's like a big piece of news. I thought you were going to say something like just like an updated status on somebody or something. I didn't expect this to be like, holy crap, am I back in on Darren Waller now?
I couldn't break the transition though. You were in the flow. I couldn't.
No, you should have done it.
Stopped it.
You have permission to interrupt me for breaking news. That's what breaking news is for. It interrupts.
No, well, I also did not really know how breaking news this was.
I think this is a big deal, considering we haven't seen Darren Waller.
I guess if Adam Schefter, his very first word in his tweet is breaking, then it's fairly important to just
if it's
right
truly
away.
breaking for Shefty, right? Then it should be breaking for us. Well, there you go. That means I am very much back in on Darren Waller this year. I think we see him back out on the field and happy and totally fine. I think the injury is I think it was overplayed a little bit. Like, I don't think it's non-existent, but I think it was overplayed because Darren Waller wanted a new contract. I mean, he literally switched agencies. Like, if that doesn't tell you he wanted a new contract and that was the priority, then I don't know what to tell you. So, again, go join our Chalkboard for all weekly content down in the description of this audio and video podcast. We're the FF Fellas on Twitter, the FF Fellas on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. I'm at Lucas Wenzel on Twitter. Tyler is Tyler_Plath over there. Any final things you want to add now?
Enjoy having your first Sunday of football.
First full Sunday of football. The people will be getting this episode hopefully later, literally in a few hours after we're recording this here. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast. Enjoy your first football Sunday of the 2022 NFL season, where Three Stooges being dudes of Fantasy Football Fellas. Deuces.